Hello, everybody. Kev here with a little pre-message. And the pre-message is this. I apologise. This is Monday that you're hearing my voice right now, of course, and that you're going to hear the show I recorded yesterday that I was unable to put up because we had no bloody internet. We do now have internet, hence the show now being uploaded. But I do sincerely apologise to everyone for the day's delay. In the meantime and in between time, here is the Sunday Sermon, a day late.
Live from Liverpool, we need to talk about ghosts with Kevin Eustace.
Yes, it is indeed time for We Need to Talk About Ghosts, because you know what? We do need to talk about ghosts. It's a Sunday, it's the Sunday Sermon, and I hope that you all had a bloody wonderful week. I hope you done amazing things, like, I don't know, played tick with each other, or tag as it's known in America, or played hide and seek with each other, or hide and go seek as it's known in America. Interesting how these games have different names, isn't it? Not really, Kev, crack on with the ghosts. Anywho, I do hope that you've all been well. Good. We have a plethora of stories for you today, and we have something new. Yes, we do. New, you say, Kevin? Yes, I do. We have, for the first, well, it's not the first time, actually, for one of the only very few times ever, people saying their own story, or telling their own story, if you will, via the medium of MP3 recording. Yes, we have 2 listener tales. Amazing. Now, the second one is a bit longer, and the second one, there's a video to accompany it, and you can find that video, newsflash, at our new YouTube channel. Yes, we have launched a YouTube channel called The Scary List. I don't know why I chose that name. It's called just 2 words, The and Scary List is all one word. So there'll be a note for it or a link for it in the show notes here. You can click on that and go and check it out. There's one video on there currently. It's me talking about 3 of the video submissions and photo submissions that have been given to the show thus far. So go check that out and go and subscribe. It took bloody ages to do. Honest to God, it took absolutely ages to do. I thought, you know what, I'm a bit of a dab hand with technology, leave it to me. A full day and night to get like 10 minutes worth of video recording. Honest to God, can't see them being too frequent, I'll be honest with you. But as I say, the audio story that'll be in the second half of the show, there is a video that accompanies it as well, so go check it out. The Scary List on YouTube. Yes. Anyway, should we check out what's been going on weirdly in the week this week? Weirdly in the week this week? That's a good enough way of saying it.
Weekend Weird.
Yes, it's time once more we delve into the weird happenings in the world this week. Now, this week we have encountered a UFO flap. Yes, a flap is what happens when many UFOs are seen over one area in a short space of time. And this flap is taking place in West Sussex in the UK. Witnesses in Billinghurst, Barnes Green, Warnham and Rudgwick, all nice names, have reported seeing peculiar orange glowing lights in the night sky. Along with the reports in Barnes Green, Rudgwick, Shoreham, etc., they've even been seen miles away in Leicestershire. The sightings are baffling everyone who's seen them, and all are convinced they're not seeing aircraft, meteors or lanterns. Very good. Many have taken to social media to recount what they've seen. Peter Gilbert, who posted on the County Times Facebook page, stated, "I saw something in the sky about 10 p.m. hovering over Stony Lane, Middle Road, Shoreham. It had flashing lights on it, moving erratically for about 2 minutes, then disappeared." Cheryl Hall added, "I saw it last night. It was like an orange ball of light and it was rather big, then shot off at speed into nothing. Definitely not a jet or a helicopter." Karen Carter saw it too. She says, "I saw that too, and it was moving quite slowly." Feroz Baig says, "I have seen this clearly late at night and was amazed. I initially thought it was a flight, but then realised it's something else that I've never seen before." And it's not just people you could say, well, they're probably simpletons who've done it, because we have a solicitor from Leicester who's also seen it, and he claims he's got footage of it too. Yes. So there is a flap going on within West Sussex, and that article that I've just quoted from is called the West Sussex County Times. So if you want to have a Google of that, you will see the story in question, and possibly even a link to these orange glowing balls of demonic, evil alien light. Or is it just lanterns? Guess it could be.
Weekend Weird.
And we're back. And now you may be thinking, hey, he hasn't sung any songs for the Patreons. Guess what? We had no new patrons this week. He sheds a tear. It slowly drops from his cheek. No, sincerely, now would be a very good time if you want to sign up, because you probably get a song all to yourself. So go over to www.patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. The link's also in the show notes. Basically, every time we put out an episode, there's a Patreon episode to accompany it. Normally me and Becca having a little jolly argument on discussion about the paranormal. Doesn't have to be, sometimes isn't. But if you want some extra content, go over to www.patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts, and you also get your name sung out by me in an episode. Isn't that fun? Yes, it is. Anyway, let's get on with some ghosts, shall we? Now, our first email comes in from regular contributor Nina Peterson, and she writes, "Hey guys, hey, here's another story for you." And this is Nina's second story. When I was 16, my current boyfriend, Jay, his best friend, M, and my best friend, R, and I all wanted to go ghost hunting. They all lived in the town next to Salem. M knew of this abandoned, boarded up church from the 1800s that had this story that a man was possessed and went into the church and locked everyone in, taking them hostage for days. Everyone in the church was said to have died from dehydration, including the possessed man. The rumour was if you went up to the back door and listened, you would hear someone moving around inside with chains dragging. So we decided to go check it out. We got there and the church was sitting on top of a little hill with overgrown shrubbery and vines all over. We couldn't get to the back door due to this, so we decided to try it anyway on one of the side windows that was boarded up. We all put our ear to the window and waited. I faintly heard some shuffling about inside, so I looked at my friends and whispered, asking if they'd heard it too. They all shook their head yes. As we listened again, we then heard chains fall to the ground inside and started being dragged in the direction of our window. Next thing that happened still chills me to the core to this very day. As we're listening and the chains are getting closer, they stop moving and there's silence for about 30 seconds. Right then, something from inside banged on the window so hard it shook the entire wooden board we were listening through. We hightailed it out of there as quick as we could. R and I started freaking out on the boys, saying we know it was them, and they were both pale and were swearing up and down it wasn't them. I still believe it wasn't them. More to come. Nina, that is horrible. I can picture that very well, and it scares the living bejesus out of me. Can you imagine having your ear right up against something and thinking, has it gone? Bang! Oh, no, thank you very much. I don't know why there was chains because he locked everyone in. Of course, that's why there were chains. That's terrifying. Thank you for that, though, Nina. Jeepers creepers. Our next story as well comes in from Nina. So we're also going to follow on because this takes place the very next day. She writes, "Hello again. Hello again. Hello again." Story 3. This is the next day from the last story. We decided to go ghost hunting again. M knew of this house built in the 1700s in Salem that was said to be haunted so badly that anyone who owned the home moved out within 6 months, so the township took over the house to historically preserve it, but had the electricity and all utilities turned off to prevent squatters. M said the story was if you walked up to the house, the foyer light would turn on. Not much of a story, but we went anyway. It was on a side of this huge hill, and the road there was extremely small, with the hill and trees immediately next to us. Only one car at a time could drive on this road. As we drove up to the home, I noticed the back porch light of the house was on. I asked M again if he said the electricity was off, and he said, "Yeah, why?" I said, "Well, because of the light," and pointed. We all looked at it and I got a big chill down my spine, like we shouldn't be there. We drove past the house as the road broke into a clearing where M turned the truck around, so if we needed to quickly get out of there, we could. The boys asked R and I if we wanted to get out with them, and I shook my head no, as I still felt something was off, and R, knowing I was sensitive, opted out as well. The boys left the truck running with the headlights on and climbed out. M decided to walk straight up to the door on the walkway, while J decided to walk up the side of the house. As R and I watched, we see the attic light turn on and we look at each other. We look back as the attic light turns off and what looked like a hallway below it had a light turn on. We watched in horror as we see the boys creeping up to the house, unaware the lights had been turning on and off. Then the stair light turned on and the hallway light turned off. We could see through the front glass doors once the light turned on that the stairs were a grand staircase dead centre with the front door. I see a flicker out of the corner of my eye, so I look forward and see the headlights on the truck flickering violently. R sees me look and she starts freaking out and yells at M to get back to the truck. I look at both the boys who are frozen in their tracks, since they saw the stair lights turn on. I see them look at each other and continue forward, and that's when the stair lights turned off and the foyer light turned on. It was like someone, or something, was coming down from the attic and meeting them at the front door. As the foyer light turned on, they continued up and the front porch light turned on. At this point, M was about to step on the front porch and J was only a few feet from him. Next thing I know, the headlights completely shut off and M jumps in the front seat. J jumps in the truck bed and we speed off. As we sped off, I look over and see the front door of the house was wide open. We stop a little bit down the road so J can get back in the truck and the headlights came back on. I asked them both what happened and they just shook their heads. As we're driving away, I look over the hill next to us and I see 3 people standing there in old Victorian clothing, waving at us with smiles. An older man holding a little girl's left hand and an older woman holding the girl's right hand. I looked at R to get her attention, then back again, and they were gone. Nina, what are you playing at sending these stories in? I've got to sleep tonight, and I'm just going to visualise this little 3-people family, the ghostly dad, ghostly mother, and of course the ever scary ghostly baby, just in the middle, all smiling and waving. Horrific. Thank you for that, Nina. No, seriously, thank you though for sending it in. Don't forget, if you've got a story, it doesn't have to contain Victorian scary people, but if it does, all the better. Send it in to our email address, contact@talkaboutghosts.com, and we will read them out. Okay then, guys, like I said at the start, we do have a couple of already recorded stories that people have taped themselves talking. You know how this works. I'm not going to patronise and explain how that works. Anyway, this is our first one, and it comes in from repeat contributor Kaylee. And it concerns something that we haven't covered on here before, but we all know about. Little Mr. Mothman.
Hey, Kevin, Becca. Hope you are staying well, staying sane. This is Kaylee. I've written a couple times before. I wrote about my mom's experience. She was, I think I mentioned she was like listening to the Smiths and The Cure and kind of going through, that angsty teenage phase. And she had that negative energy in the corner of her room. The dog started barking. They brought her to Bible. It stopped. So my story today also involves my mom again because she is sensitive to that sort of thing. And it involves Mothman. And I'm going to assume that the majority of your listeners are familiar with Mothman. But if not, essentially, Mothman is considered by some to be a cryptid, others just an interdimensional entity that's usually an omen of bad news. And Mothman showed up in the early 60s in West Virginia, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is the mid-Atlantic east coast of the United States. And shortly after Mothman's arrival, sadly, there was a huge bridge collapse, the Silver Bridge, and I think something like 42 people drowned. So some people consider Mothman like an omen of bad news. And most recently, there have been Mothman sightings in Chicago. So who knows, maybe Mothman is back. But anyway, this was the early 90s. I had just been born. And my mom and dad were traveling to see some family in Chicago, interestingly enough. And they were traveling on a dark back country road in West Virginia. And my mom said she just suddenly felt like this energy kind of go past her on the passenger side. And she looked and she said she very clearly saw a form that was pitch black with red eyes. And she looked at my dad after it passed and she said, "Did you see that? What the F was that?" And my dad was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't see anything." But she never forgot it. And so when I grew up and I saw the movie with Richard Gere or whatever, Mothman Prophecies, I was like, "Mom, didn't you say that you thought you saw the Mothman?" And she said, I'm not sure. And so we looked up some pictures of owls, which is what some people think the Mothman is. And she said, no, this thing had at least a 6 feet wingspan and had red eyes. And because it was on the side of the car, it wasn't reflecting light. So it had to have had glowing red eyes. And thankfully nothing bad happened after she saw it, but she's never forgotten that. And I thought that was kind of creepy and wanted to share. So thanks so much. Love the podcast as usual.
And we love the fact that you sent that story in. Wow, we haven't. I can categorically say that we have never had a Mothman sighting here. No, siree. I don't mean like as in England. There may well have been, but we've not had a story submitted to do with the Mothman, as far as I can recall. Anyway, so thank you so much, Kaylee. That's an amazing little tale. And God bless your mother for being open enough to say, yeah, go on, Google it. I'll tell you. No, it's not that. No, it's not. No, it was definitely a demon. Yeah. Okay. Bye now. Thanks, mother. No, that was amazing. Anyway, should we have a midpoint? A Mothman midpoint? Or just a midpoint? I don't know. We'll see. Wo ist den Mothman? Ein Mothman ist in trees. Yes, he is, possibly. He could be on a bridge. Let's hope not. You know what happened last time. Touch wood. Anyway, I do hope that you're all well. It is indeed time for the Merry Midpoint. What's been going on? Well, I'll tell you, as we will have covered in the start, and our Patreons already know this because they got the information earlier, as that's the privilege you get for being a Patreon. We do have a YouTube channel out. Go check it out. Go to YouTube and search for The Scary List. Scary List's all one word. It's basically me in the flesh. Yes, discussing things. It's like this show. It's not like The Dark Paranormal, which is the other show that you need to go and check out. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. However, it took forever. I know I've said this earlier, but good Lord. Honestly, I've had shorter flights. It was... Anyway, go and check it out. Go and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Any other news to tell you about? Quickly? I don't think so. Of course, we don't need to talk about on Wednesday coming up, and there'll be a Patreon episode after that as well. Patreon episode after this, of course. And me and Becca have done a little walk. That'll be coming up within the next hour or so. And don't forget, this coming Wednesday, there will also be a release on The Dark Paranormal. That is now its own podcast that you need to go and search for. It will be episode 4, I believe. So go and search for The Dark Paranormal if you like your stories scary enough to put tar all over your eyes. I don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty scary to me. Yes, so there's no humour in The Dark Paranormal. It's just terrifying. So go search for The Dark Paranormal wherever you get your podcast. It's me, but a serious version. Who would have thunk it, eh? Anyway, unless there's anything else to say, don't think there is. No. Oh, I will say this. There looks like there's going to be a little bit of activity going on in the flat. Last couple of nights, scratches, raking sounds, and footsteps on the stairs. Yeah, not sure if it's the neighbours or not. It could well be. But it also could be that time of year when the ghostie likes to come out. Is there a pattern? I'm going to have to go back and listen to shows from like this time last year and see if it's around this time something happens. And if there is, I'll crap myself and have to jump out the window. But let's hope not anyway. Okay then guys, let's get back to the show and your wonderful, wonderful stories. Don't forget, send your stories in, contact@talkaboutghosts.com. Okay, so you're on to the side. And we are back once more to scare the living bejesus out of you. Yes, we are. Now, our next email contains 3 short stories, and it came in from Ian Sewell. So thank you, Ian. And they go thusly. Hi, Kevin Beck. Hi. Here are 3 short stories, 2 from my parents and 1 from me. I'm not sure on dates and times from the first 2, but here it goes. So this is Ian's story number 1. My mum was brought up in an abusive household that only got worse when her mother married an equally abusive man. This man, now her stepfather, treated her like shit until the day he died. My mum was glad of his passing and started to enjoy being able to freely leave the house when she wanted to and go for walks. One day, on one of her walks, she reached the top of her street and looked up across the road, up the hill towards the local cemetery, only to see her stepfather cycling down the hill as he did every day on his way home from work when he was alive. She watched as he got closer and closer, and just before he gets to her, she faints. On a side note, it was only this year that I found out he had died in the box room of the house I grew up in some 10 years before my birth, and a room that I would constantly have nightmares about I would never play in, even though my parents made it into a playroom. Bloody hell, Ian. Your poor mum, you know what? There's nothing worse than domestic abuse. I hold that very, very effing strongly. The idea that one human can try and control another human through violence and intimidation in where they're meant to feel safest at home is just, you know what? It should be capital punishment in my opinion. It really should. Sorry, it's a very strong opinion, but there you go. But thank you, Ian. Bloody hell. Story 2. My dad married in his 20s, but lost his wife to leukemia not long after and was left to raise his young daughter alone in the flat they once all shared. Not long after his wife's death, he awoke one night and couldn't move. His back was pinned to the bed. A sense of fear came over him, but as quick as it came, it left. It was at this point he was able to lift his head and see someone standing at the end of his bed. It was his late wife. She tells him that everything will be alright and that he will find love, get married and have one child, a little boy. Fast forward some years later, and my dad does find love and gets married. They also have one child, a boy. Me. Wow, Ian, honest to God, I know they're only short stories, but there's so much bloody heartache in them. Oh, I mean, also niceness, you know. It's nice that your dad's ex-wife came back to say, don't worry, it'll all be fine. You're going to have a little boy. Yes, little boy. Don't worry about me. I'm just a ghost who pinned you to the bed. This is all fine. But no, it is nice. But it's tinged with sadness, isn't it? Bloody hell. Let's see if story 3 gets any nicer. Story 3. My dad passed away in December 2018 after being diagnosed with brain cancer in May of that year. Bloody hell, Ian. Honest to God, mate, my heart is pouring here for you. This is a highly emotive series of short stories, isn't it? Hats off to you, mate, for going through all this, and I don't know. Bloody hell. Anyway, sorry. I continue with your story. I'll start again with it. I'm sorry about that. Bloody hell. I just don't know what to say. Anyway, story 3. My dad passed away in December 2018 after being diagnosed with brain cancer in May of that year. In those 7 months, he would always say, I love you, whenever I left after visiting or talking on the phone, in brackets, something he never did before and didn't really need to. After his death, I looked for signs he might still be around. Every time I visited my mum, I would pop into the room where I sat with him, held his hand and kissed his head just after he died, and say a quick, hello, Dad, expecting something to happen, but it never did. Skip to Father's Day 2019, a day I was dreading, but it was also my daughter's 6th birthday party, so I put any sadness to one side. The day goes smoothly and ends. That night I have the most vivid dream that I have ever had. It started with me being awoken by the sound of a fax machine modem. I follow the horrible noise downstairs and realise it's coming from our house phone in the hallway. As I pick up the phone and say hello, my dad's voice replies with, love you. I awoke with the weirdest feeling, happy but also sad. Maybe it was just my brain giving me something I needed, but who knows. I have another story and a couple of other weird happenings that I'll send in soon. Thanks, Kevin Becker. You make my days go quicker in work. Ian, bloody hell. That last one absolutely ripped my soul out. Oh, tell you what, I think I need to go and have a cup of tea. It's not professional to shed a tear on a podcast, is it? No one wants to hear that shit. But Ian, well done. Hats off to you, mate, for you know, I know what it's like to lose a parent, and it's I don't know what you do. I'm sure a lot of, you know, I'm not trying to say woe is me or woe is you. I'm sure that you know, you cope with it in your own way, don't you? But anyone who's lost a parent at a young age anyway will know the things that you'll do, going into rooms and saying, are you here? And stuff like that, and all that carry on. So you have my deepest sympathies for the loss of your father there. And I'm sure it was him who came to you in a dream. I sincerely am. And yeah. So let's not dwell on the negatives. I think it was a bloody lovely thing that he did, yeah. And why he chose to come back via a fax machine, I don't know. I mean, how very 80s of him. Yes. Well done there, Ian's dad. Come back in a retro fashion. I'm going to come back through a Nokia 3210, I think. Boop, 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 playing Snake. In fact, somebody's going to be playing Snake, trying to be all hipster and retro. And I'll just make the Snake go into like a say hello to Becca sort of message. Anyway, as we said earlier, the last message that we've got, not message, that's me thinking about messages. The last story that we've got is a pre-record, yes. And it comes in from Chish from North London, and she's got problems in her flat. Paranormal problems, of course. Now, this is the story that I said there's also an accompanying video, which features on our new YouTube channel, The Scary List. So if you want to see that video, you need to go and subscribe. But this is Chish's story.
Hi, Kevin. I hope you're well. I thought I would send you a voice recording to share an experience that I had. It's not one that I think is worthy of being on the show. I just thought you might be interested because I know that you've spoken about something in your home turning the taps on, and I think I have a tap ghost, and I have a little video recording, and I just thought I'd send you this voice clip to explain what the recording is about. So, a little bit of background. I live in North London, and the place I live in was purchased by my parents in the early 1990s, and it was a new build at the time. So yes, it's relatively aged but not old. I'm not talking Victorian. We're the first people to have lived here. And I'm originally from Zambia. My parents bought it when my sisters and I came to boarding school here. So they wanted us to have a home away from home that we could go to during half terms and school breaks, or if we wanted to get away from school for a bit, we could go there on the weekend. So nobody ever really properly lived in this place. Maybe for the first 10 years of us having it, we would probably use it about, I don't know, maximum 6 weeks of the year. And this was us as teens coming in and out of it during the weekends and at half term. But even then, there was always like something weird about the place. And I remember my sisters all kind of having the same feeling. I have 3 sisters, and we all kind of had the same feeling. We spoke to my mum about it, and she said, well, there can't possibly be anything here because it's a brand new place. But there was just like a heavy air about the place that you never felt quite relaxed, like you were always looking over your shoulder. And there was one time when I was about 16 when my younger sister and I decided to come and spend the weekend in the house. And we were here for about 4 nights. And I was so nervous about staying in this place that I always used to sleep with my bedside lamp on. And for the first night, I went to sleep with my bedside lamp on. And I woke up the next morning and the lamp had been turned off. So I thought, okay, maybe it's my sister. It happened night number 2. And I asked her, are you coming into my room to turn off the light? And she said, no, I'm not. So I thought, okay, clearly either I'm doing it or something else is doing it. But that happened for the next couple of nights. I would sleep with the light on and wake up and it had been turned off. And in addition, there was sort of like this waxy substance that was being left on the bedside table that I would find in the morning, and I'd clear it away, but when I woke up there'd be this like waxy stuff, and just kind of put it to the back of my head. Just, you don't want to admit that something weird is happening, because then you have to face the question of what is it that's doing this. But that never happened again, and that seemed to be the theme. Like something would happen as a one-off and just never happen again. And then later, my elder sister, when she was at university, she came over to the house to stay for a few weeks. And this was something we all experienced, actually, which is you would hear footsteps in the house. But because it's a terraced house, I think we always rationalized that it was the neighbors, because the walls are quite thin. And so you'd always say, like, okay, fine, maybe it's the neighbors I'm hearing walking around. But if you're on the ground floor, the house is set over 3 floors. And if you're on the ground floor, you would hear the footsteps on the first floor. And when you eventually moved to the bedrooms on the first floor, towards the end of the night, the footsteps would now be on the top floor. But like I said, I always just used to say, look, that's the neighbors, that's the neighbors. But one time my sister was staying here on her own, and the footsteps were so loud and persistent that she just ran out of the house, called her friend, told her friend, I'm not going back into this house until somebody else comes here. And her friend had to come over and stay with her for the rest of the week because my sister wouldn't stay here on her own. So it was just sort of one of things like that where you kind of think, like, maybe if you're a bit paranoid and if you are into the paranormal, your mind will quickly reach to that where there might be a rational explanation. So yes, now I live in the house full time, and I've lived here for about 5 years. And odd things do happen, but like I said, then it's nothing huge. It's just like tiny little things that you can almost explain away. And I would always joke with my friends at work that, oh, I have a ghost and the ghost was active again. But in the back of my mind, I never really quite believed it because it was just little things that would happen once or twice and they just never happen again. And then I started to get the sleep paralysis, but I'll tell you, I think I'll write that one as a story you can use on the show. Yes, I started to get sleep paralysis, and I started to hear things sort of banging more in the house. But once again, I just ignore it, say it's nothing. And more recently, what's been happening is there was 1 week, a few weeks ago, where my alarm system was being turned off. So I'd go to sleep, turn on the alarm, and when I'd wake up in the morning, somebody had disabled the alarm. And the first night it happened, I thought, oh, clearly I forgot to turn on the alarm. So the next night, I made a conscious effort to note that I turned on the alarm. And when I came down the next morning, it had been disabled. And it happened again a third morning. It happened 3 times, didn't happen again. And then there was one time I was lying in bed and I felt something sit at the end of my bed. But because I was in half sleep, I thought, could that have just been a hypnagogic hallucination, me kind of drifting off into sleep and manifesting this? And it's not necessarily real. So once again, I went to work and I joked about it, but I didn't really believe it. And then there was another time I was in bed and I heard a voice that sounded very clearly like my mum, and it awakened me from sleep. And I woke up and was like, Mum, and obviously there was nobody there. And once again, I thought, okay, you were asleep. It's probably a very vivid dream that woke you up. But this last week, things have been getting a little bit noisier again. So it's been quiet. It often goes like this. It's quiet for many, many weeks. Nothing happens. And then something will happen for a few days and then it will stop. But there's been this thing that has been quite persistent for maybe now, for a few weeks now to maybe a few months. And that's the tap running. And this reminds me of the story you told us about you seeing the tap turning on. So for many nights now, maybe for the last 6 months or so, I've been awakened from sleep to hear the sound of the bathroom tap running. And I get up, and it's just like a tiny trickle, but it's persistent. It's nothing really forceful, just a tiny little persistent trickle. And once again, I rationalize that, okay, I'm just not turning the taps off properly. So it happened enough times that now before I go to bed, I make the conscious effort to go and double check that I've turned it even tighter, that the taps are really screwed tight so they can't wake me up from sleep, because it was getting really annoying. And I just put it down to a pressure thing. I did not at any point think that this had anything to do with something potentially paranormal until last night. Last night, I was getting ready for bed, and there were some kids in the flat opposite, in the house opposite, who were having a really rowdy party. This was about 11 o'clock at night. So I went out to see what they were getting up to see if I needed to like talk to their parents and say, look, you're disturbing the whole neighborhood. We need to sleep. It's a work day for some of us tomorrow. So I just went out, and you could see they were actually winding it up, so I didn't say anything, and I just came straight back. And I went to my room, carried on getting ready for bed, and to get to my room I have to walk past the bathroom, and the bathroom door was open. Didn't notice anything, everything's okay, and I'm in the bedroom getting ready for the day, or for the night shall I say, and I hear this whoosh, and I can hear water gushing into the sink, and I go to the bathroom, and there the tap has been turned on and the water is running. And that's the first time it's ever done that at a time when I'm awake, and so forcefully. Normally, like I said, it's just a sort of little trickle, but this actually was properly, it was almost like something saying, yes, I'm here, this is not a dream. And there is still this part of me, even as I'm telling you, there's a bit of me which is kind of saying it could just be a pressure thing, and if you got somebody to look at your pipes, they might say that, yes, you have alterations of pressure that only happen at night or something or the other. But it was spooky enough that I did film it, which is the video I've sent you. And I thought you might find it interesting because you're not the only person who potentially has a tap ghost. Anyway, I hope you find it interesting. And like I said, I don't think this isn't a story for your show. There's nothing really tangible. I just thought I would send you this video with a bit of a backstory to see what you think. But yeah, carry on doing what you're doing. I really, really love your show. And I love your new spin-off, the Dark Podcasts. I probably said that wrong, and I just heard you chastising one of your writers for calling it the wrong thing, but I really love it. It's great. So carry on doing what you're doing. Thank you.
What an amazing catalogue or diarised version of events. That's amazing. And I know that she says a few times there, probably not suitable for your show. What? Get over it. This is absolute dynamite. This is what we need on the show. Actual, tangible that is tangible. You said it's not very tangible. It is. Sheesh, you need to keep letting us know. And also let me know if I'm pronouncing your name right as well. I believe it's Sheesh, but we'll have to see. But yeah, you need to keep us adrift of what's going on there because it's amazing. If you want to check that video out, it is on the YouTube channel, the Scary List. There'll be a link in the show notes. But why I love the video and what gives it authenticity to me is, you know, when you see a scary video and normally it starts before the scary thing happens. So it's like, just focus on the door. And then you see the door opening. You have to ask yourself, why were they filming prior to anything happening? Whereas, yeah, you could look at Sheesh's video and say, well, we don't see anything take place. You know, the tap's already on. Yes, it is. And that's exactly what would happen. Do you know what I mean? If a video starts and as it starts, the light's already flickering, that means it's happened. You know, you've grabbed your phone because something's happening. It's not you've grabbed it and pointed it somewhere because you know in a minute something's going to happen. So yeah, I think it's bloody dynamite. I think this is exactly what the show needs. So thank you very much, she said, and do sincerely keep us adrift of what's going on. And also bear in mind that there may be two Scousers wanting to come down to your house and do an investigation. Just bear that in mind. Okay, so that should wrap it up nicely for this show. Thank you so much to everyone who's contributed to the show thus far. It does. You guys are the lifeblood of the show. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't matter that you pronounce the Dark Paranormal wrong, because your story is bloody amazing, and that's where we get forgiveness from. Yes, we do. So, if you have a story like the ones you've heard, doesn't have to be like the ones you heard, can be about anything at all, as long as it's terrifying. Send it in to contact@talkaboutghosts.com. If you want to hear more content, go and sign up at the Patreon, www.patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. The links for everything we've talked about will be in the show notes. And I think that's it. Don't forget, search for the Dark Paranormal if you want an extra slice of spookiness in your podcasting life. And in the meantime, and in between time, we will see you on Wednesday for a We Don't Need to Talk About. Okay then, guys, I love you all, and I will speak to you shortly. Tatty bye.